Did the book say that Joe Biden has dementia? No, not to my knowledge. Did the book say that a doctor has diagnosed the former president with Parkinson's? No. I think the book just says Joe Biden was old.
It did, but it also said that his aides limited his, how much time he would work during the day, and that it brought up, some concerns potentially for national security that he wouldn't have been available at 2 a.m.
I think it's crazy because Donald Trump is the president and he left his Middle Eastern trip and he's tweeting or posting on his social media site about Taylor Swift. It is laughable, frankly, to me, the idea that this is a concern. It's not a concern for Democratic voters, I can tell you, because I've talked to them. I'm talking to DNC members and Democratic voters for the last couple of days, actually. I do think, though, if this book tells us anything, it is this. Was the president in cognitive decline? I vehemently don't believe that as someone who saw the president a week before inauguration and someone that spoke to him recently. But was Joe Biden in denial about the political realities of the situation? I think so. And we have to ask ourselves, if that's the case, why? Well, I have to look to the people that were advising the president. What were they telling him? What weren't they telling him? But if we explore that, I think then some people who have yet to show up and take responsibility, then there are questions for them. It's easier, though, to just say, oh, well, the president was old.
Well, I'll ask you.
Let's see. Jason Pengo, why is anyone still talking about Biden? Oh, yeah, Republicans deflecting. No, it's not just Republicans deflecting. This guy was the president of the United States for 4 years and thought he could run and be president for 4 more years. You can think Donald Trump is terrible and doing terrible things as president, but you can also think that this is a story worthy of covering. That there appears, to me at least, to have been an active cover-up from people close to Joe Biden about his condition, from the media, from the public, and even from people in the White House. Go read Original Sin when it comes out on Tuesday. Trust me. This is not a Republican-created issue. Joe Biden should not have sought re-election. There were signs he was deteriorating as far back as late 2022.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the mainstream liberal media's coverage of Joe Biden's mental decline being covered up by the Democrat Party, okay? Because Jake Tapper is trying to redeem himself after being complicit in the cover-up of Biden's mental decline, and he's writing a book, throwing the Democrat Party under the bus, stabbing the Democrats in the back, basically exposing all of the embarrassing details that were covered up by the mainstream liberal media and the Democrat Party, okay? And as you can see, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video, MSNBC, they don't really like this, right? They don't like talking about this topic, okay, because it makes Democrats look bad. They'd rather sit around and talk about Trump all day, okay? MSNBC, Simone Sanders, she worked for the Biden administration, and she claims that the book does not provide any evidence of cognitive decline, okay, and that she doesn't believe that Biden is cognitively declining, okay, which, believe it or not, this is an excuse that some Democrats are pushing on national television, like, for example, James Clyburn, who is apparently one of Biden's best friends in Congress, right? He was confronted by Jake Tapper on Biden's cognitive decline, and he's basically saying, yeah, I talked to Biden, but I didn't notice anything, right? I didn't notice that there is anything wrong with the guy, right? Not anything for him to be concerned about. This is what he told CNN. Take a look.
Let's turn to the debate going on within the Democratic Party right now. On Friday night, Axios obtained the audio from then President Biden's interview with former special counsel Robert Hur, who was investigating Biden's mishandling of classified documents. In that audio tape, you hear President Biden rambling, unable to keep a train of thought, getting dates wrong. Let's run a little clip of that.
Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why not 2017?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Yeah, okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right, correct.
At a different time in that interview, he's asked about the 2017-2018 period, and he says during that period, his son Beau was either deployed or dying, but Beau was deployed in 2008, 2009, and he died tragically in May 2015. Needless to say, even supporters of the president have heard these tapes and been alarmed by it. What was your response to them? Did you see much of that when you had meetings and interactions with President Biden during his term?
No, I didn't. You know, the fact of the matter is I saw Biden often, but not as often as people seem to think. I saw him, I talked to him on the telephone very often, and I never saw anything that I thought was outside of the ordinary. So I never saw anything I thought was unusual. Did he talk as swiftly as he used to talk? No, he didn't. Did he walk as swiftly? No, he didn't. But that is to be expected. Those of us who reach that age, as I have, we don't walk as often as fast as we used to. And I may talk as fast as I used to, but we down here in the South don't talk all that fast anyway.
Well, with all due respect, sir, having interviewed you quite often, I don't think there's any comparison between how sharp you are and your ability to talk and answer questions and get dates right, et cetera, and what we've seen from President Biden, both in that audio, but also throughout 2023, 2024, especially on the debate stage. Do you think that Joe Biden really would have been able to perform as president all the way through January 2029 when he would be 86?
Yes, I thought that back then. I still think that, but I don't know that. When people ask me, did I know this or did I know the other? And the fact of the matter is, no, I didn't.
Life can change in an instant. One moment you're fine, the next, well, everything is different. You're left with questions, with pain, with the feeling that you've been wronged, and the system, well, it feels like it is built against you. This is why you need somebody that's on your side, somebody that understands, somebody that will fight for you. At Morgan & Morgan, they're not just lawyers, they're advocates. They're here to give you a voice when yours feels lost. They've recovered billions for people just like you. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, takes on all types of injury cases from car accidents to medical malpractice. They fight for your rights and the compensation that you deserve if you become their client so that you can focus on healing. They've achieved significant verdicts over the past few months for the victims involved in life-altering car crashes, like out in Florida, a $12 million verdict, which was over 34 times the highest insurance offer. And they work on a contingency fee basis, which means that you don't pay unless you win. It's really that simple, to be honest with you. So you can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/Black Conservative, which will be in the description below, right? The link will be in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone's camera. Yeah, so I want you guys to understand, right? It doesn't matter which Democrat you talk to, right? It doesn't matter if they had worked for the White House just for a few years, whether they had worked there for 4 years, whether they had been around Joe Biden a lot or not a lot. Doesn't matter. None of them knew, right? None of them noticed that Joe Biden was cognitively declining until the debate, right? According to these people.
I never saw anything that allowed me to think that Joe Biden was not able to do the job. Just that simple.
The debate didn't make you concerned about whether or not he could do the job?
Absolutely it did. I never saw any of that. I didn't see the tapes from her interview, and I watched that debate, and you and I talked about it, and yes, I was concerned. Now the question is this a condition or is this an incident? And I have had incidents when I was looking for my glasses and had them on. So you have these kinds of incidents, and that's the question is. And then remember, a lot of us were a bit concerned about his schedule in the run-up to the debate. He took 2 overseas trips, came back and started preparing for that debate. And I called it at the time preparation overload because they were cramming into a 4 or 5 day period the preparation for this debate after taking 2 overseas trips, which I thought was taxing in and of itself. And so these kinds of concerns are out there, but none of us thought that there was anything here that created any suspicions of any prolonged condition.
Do you think, and this is my last question on this, do you think that your party's incredibly low standing with the American people in polling has anything to do with the impression that many people in your party, especially in the White House, and especially President Biden and his family and inner circle, hid his actual dysfunction, his non-functioning abilities from the American people? Not only hid them from the American people, but hid them from you and cabinet officials and donors and even other people in the White House? Do you think that the low polling has anything to do with that?
Well, it very well could have. I haven't looked at the numbers behind the numbers to come into the conclusion as to what exactly is going on here.
Yeah, so the mental gymnastics for the Democrat Party just keeps getting better and better and better, okay? This is probably the most entertaining story on cable news, okay? Because Democrats, this guy, James Clyburn, said earlier in the interview that he believed that Biden could continue to serve for 4 straight years, right? For the next 4 years up into 2029. He believed that Biden could continue to serve. Now, he said he believes that today. But later on in the interview, he admitted that, yeah, after that debate, he was shocked and concerned about Biden's mental capabilities, okay? But he basically chalked it up as, well, Biden, he'd been traveling a lot, right? He had done some trips overseas and, he was just tired, which could explain why Joe Biden, allegedly, according to the book, he quit 15 minutes into debate prep and then went by the pool to take a nap, right? So I'm just saying that these Democrats, man, they are digging themselves in a deeper and deeper and deeper hole, okay? I am not James Clyburn's constituent, right? I'm sure he probably comes from a district that is probably deep blue, really hard for a black Democrat like himself to lose, okay? But if I was his constituent, what he said on national television should be disqualifying, right? It should be disqualifying to come out here on national television and to say with a straight face that Biden can serve for another 4 years, where that clearly is not the case, right? Clearly, Biden can't do that. And because he thinks that, because James Clyburn believes that, that speaks to his judgment, right? That he has really bad judgment, okay? He's either lying or his judgment is terrible. I think it's probably both. Because at this point, it just seems to me that a lot of these Democrats, they just want to sweep this under the rug, right? They want this story to just go away so that they don't have to keep talking about it anymore. But, CNN has decided that they're going to try to stab the Democrat Party in the back, okay? They're going to beat a dead horse, Joe Biden, right? They're going to kick the man while he's down in order to save their own credibility. And this is why they continue to confront these Biden officials on what happened with Biden. Like, for example, the Deputy Secretary of State, Wendy Sherman, she was confronted about Biden's cognitive decline, and she played the, well, I wasn't really around card, and we should just move on because Trump bad, Trump evil.
2 years of the Biden presidency and the reports now that are being alleged of, as you know, you're probably aware, of his cognitive decline and of efforts by his inner circle to insulate him from scrutiny. Based on your experience working for President Biden, were you concerned that this was happening and that potentially, things were not being managed from the top?
So I wasn't in the inner circle in the White House, so I can't speak to some of what has been written. My own experience was a positive one. I didn't stay until the end of the administration, but up until the time that I left in 2023, I did not see any impairment when it came to the tough decisions that had to be made. I think we all have to look forward. What happened, happened. The people of the United States clearly wanted a change. They certainly have gotten a profound change, one that I think will leave a line of destruction in rebuilding our democracy into the future. And I think we all have to be focused on where we are now, what President Trump is doing to our democracy, and make sure we do everything we can to save it and to rebuild it.
But hey, you do have some Democrat operatives, like, for example, Van Jones and David Axelrod, who are going on CNN and they're telling the truth, right? They're telling the truth about how bad this is for the Democrat Party, and they just can't move on, right? You just can't move on until you essentially acknowledge the truth, right? Until you tell the American people that, yes, we lied about this, because as long as Democrats continue to lie and to cover this up, it is going to hurt their credibility, right? And that is something that Democrats need to understand, but they just refuse to acknowledge it.
Everyone was afraid to say, except for David Axelrod for 2 years, that something was wrong here. And so, I was shocked. I love Joe Biden. I don't like him. I love him. I got a chance to work with him when I was a part of the Obama administration and loved him more every day. I was shocked to see his condition when he came out, and so was the world. And that wasn't the first time he was in that condition. The book makes it very, very clear. There are people who knew and said nothing. And that is a crime against this republic. And I think the Democrats are going to pay for a long time for being a part of what is now being revealed to be a massive cover-up.
And David, in what seemed to be an attempt to get ahead of the book, President Biden and First Lady Biden went on The View, and he still says that if he had stayed in the race, he would have won. What do you think?
Well, I think that's preposterous. I think he's being told that by Mike Donnellan, his top political aide. And I've known Mike for decades. Mike is a brilliant guy. He knows, he was a pollster, he was a media consultant. He knows politics very, very well. I think he's just so tied to Biden emotionally that he could not accept the truth, which was it wasn't there. The analytics before the debate, Jake, that within the Democratic Party, within both the campaign and outside the campaign, showed him with less than a 5% chance of winning. And had he run, Democrats would have lost at least 3 more Senate seats, probably would have lost some more states. The damage would have been greater. He may need to comfort himself by believing that, but it's just not true.
Yeah. So, I mean, is anybody surprised that Democrats continue to lie to themselves, right? And to tell themselves, well, if Biden stayed in the race, he would have won. And it's like, no. Like, the Democrat operatives came out and admitted that, had Biden stayed in the race, Trump would have won in an actual Reagan-esque landslide. Okay, I mean, who knows? Trump might have won all 50 states, okay? I mean, maybe not California and some of these ultra-liberal states, right? But regardless, he would have won a lot more states had Biden stayed in the race. But you have James Clyburn and other Democrats still continuing to delude themselves into believing that, Biden could have continued to serve, right? There was nothing wrong with him. And again, the more they do this, the more it just really hurts their credibility. But is anybody really surprised? Because Democrats lied the last 4 years about everything, right? They deluded themselves, okay? They refused to accept reality. And people are surprised that they are still doing that they're still not accepting reality for what it is, that they're still gaslighting, because that's the only thing the Democrat Party has at this point. All they have is just lies and gaslighting. That's why when confronted on reality and truth, you have MSNBC anchors like Simone Sanders, who work for the Biden administration, getting all upset and butthurt, right? Because that's not how the media is supposed to operate in their eyes, right? The media is not supposed to tell the truth about Joe Biden and Democrats. No, they're just supposed to attack Trump all day. So when you are used to the softballs, right? When you're used to the media just focusing on Trump, of course it's going to be difficult when they finally turn on you. And again, the sad part about this is that as much as the media wants to blame Democrats, the media was complicit. Had the media did their jobs, okay, and actually covered Joe Biden and asked the questions, okay, investigated the smoke, okay, because we knew there was fire there. Had they did their jobs, okay, investigative journalism, then, Biden probably would have dropped out a long time ago, okay? He would have dropped out a long time ago, and this story would not be a story that we're still talking about. But because the media didn't do their jobs, because they acted as an arm of the Democrat Party, we're in this situation right now, and this is why I'm not giving them credit, right? I'm not giving Jake Tapper credit. I'm not giving CNN credit. I'm not giving these liberal outlets any credit whatsoever for deciding to do something that they should have did a long time ago, but now they're doing it in a situation where it doesn't matter as much, right? Joe Biden done, okay? I mean, it does matter when it comes to the credibility of the Democrat Party, but, they should have did this when Joe Biden was in office. They let a man who was not cognitively capable of being president of the United States remain in office because they hated Trump, right? They would much rather have an empty suit running the country than to have Trump running the country. And this is why the media and the Democrat Party's approval ratings are in the tank, okay? Both of them are to blame for what happened here. And both of them really should be ashamed of themselves in regards to how in the world did we allow this to happen, right? Who was running the country for the last 4 years? That is the next part of this conversation that we got to have, okay? We got to talk about who was actually running the country. Who was calling the shots? Was it Jill Biden, right? Was Jill Biden running the country? Did we have a Jill Biden presidency for the last 4 years straight? Yeah, we got to continue to talk about this. We have to continue to have these questions answered because the American people have a right to know. We have a right to know. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.